Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Z&D Academy course summaries. Please make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Today, in this explainer, we're climbing the foundational ladder of Islamic Aqidah based on the brilliant lecture by Dr. Abdulaziz Al-Juhani. We're going to break down these deep concepts and make this authentic knowledge super accessible, step by step, connecting it directly to our daily lives so it actually makes an impact. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll be moving naturally through four main areas, starting with the broad concept of rights in Islam, redefining what true worship actually means, looking at the categories of Tawhid, and finishing up with the spiritual conditions of the Shahada. So let's jump right in. All right, moving to part one, understanding the framework of rights, or as we say in Arabic, hukuk, and their absolutely central place in Islam. Islam lays out a really comprehensive, precise system of rights. Think of these rights like a massive, deeply rooted tree. You've got the rights of the Prophet, peace be upon him, the companions, scholars, parents, and even neighbors, guests, and relatives. Every single leaf and branch represents a right we owe to others, and Islam is highly focused on fulfilling all of them to keep society strong. But the main trunk, the deep root that feeds this entire tree and gives it life, is the absolute greatest right, the right of the Creator. If that root is healthy, the rest of the tree just naturally blooms in our lives. The Prophet, peace be upon him, summed up this ultimate right perfectly to Mu'adh bin Jabal. Picture this incredibly simple yet profound scene. Mu'adh was actually riding right behind the Prophet on a donkey. And in that quiet, personal moment of guidance, the Prophet asked him about the right of Allah, establishing our very purpose for existing. He said, "The right of Allah over his servants is that they worship him and do not associate anything with him." In that one short sentence, we get the literal reason we were created, not to hoard wealth or build mansions, but for this one noble purpose. That brings us to section 2. How does this ultimate right completely reshape our common, maybe somewhat limited understanding of what worship actually means? We get a brilliant answer to that from Ibn Taymiyyah. He explains that worship, or al-ibadah, isn't just confined to the corners of a mosque. It's not just praying, fasting, and giving charity. Actually, it's a comprehensive name for everything Allah loves and is pleased with, including all outward and inward sayings and actions. So what does that mean for you practically? It means literally every aspect of your life can be worship. Mastering your job, worship. Smiling at your brother, worship. Studying to benefit society, or even just having good intentions in your heart that nobody else sees, that's all worship. If your intention is purely for Allah, your whole life transforms into this unbroken chain of worship. Now, linguistically, the word for worship comes from tabud, which describes a path that is subdued or paved by being walked on so much. It implies total submission, humility, and being broken. But here is the beautiful spiritual paradox. Submitting entirely to Allah alone brings the believer unparalleled honor and elevation. The more you show your need and humility before the Creator, the more He elevates your status, making you independent of people, and honoring you in this life and the next. Submitting to Allah is the peak of honor, while being arrogant against His commands is what actually leads to humiliation. So, the million-dollar question is, how do we direct this comprehensive worship to Allah correctly and purely? The answer is understanding Tawhid, which is our third section. To protect our faith from critical errors, scholars have categorized Tawhid into 3 distinct, yet deeply connected pillars. Now, this categorization wasn't just pulled out of thin air. It's a precise study drawn directly from the Quran and Sunnah. It acts as an educational tool to ensure our creed stays pure, protecting us from the deviations of past nations who mixed up the Creator with the creation. Let's compare the first 2 categories to clear up any confusion. Tawhid ar-Rububiyyah, or lordship, is unifying Allah in His actions, creating, providing, giving life, causing death, managing the universe. Basically, having absolute certainty that Allah alone is the active force in existence. On the flip side, Tawhid al-Uluhiyyah is unifying Allah in our actions, praying, relying, slaughtering for meat, meaning we don't direct any form of worship to anyone but Him. The golden rule here, affirming lordship absolutely necessitates submitting to uluhiyyah. If you admit Allah is the creator and provider, it just makes logical and spiritual sense that you shouldn't worship anyone else. And here's a historical surprise that might shock some people. The polytheists of Quraysh, even tyrants like Abu Jahl, fully affirmed Tawhid ar-Rububiyyah. They knew, by their own natural disposition, that Allah was the creator and provider. If you asked them who created the heavens and the earth, They would say Allah. So where was the disconnect? The problem was Tawhid al-Uluhiyya. Their arrogance, their stubbornness, and their blind loyalty to what their ancestors did. That is what stopped them from directing all worship to Allah alone. They recognized the truth in their minds, but their false pride blocked their hearts from submitting. The third category is Tawhid of names and attributes. This requires us to affirm whatever attributes of perfection Allah affirmed for himself and whatever his messenger affirmed for him, but with 4 very specific conditions. First, without altering the true meaning. Second, without denying any established attribute. Third, without asking how, because our human minds just can't comprehend the reality of the Creator. And fourth, without comparing the Creator's attributes to the weak attributes of the creation. We take the names and attributes exactly as they came, anchoring ourselves on that definitive Quranic truth. There is nothing like unto him, and he is the hearing, the seeing. Let's see how all this builds up to the peak of our foundational ladder. Section 4, understanding the core declaration of faith, La ilaha illallah, meaning there is no deity worthy of worship in truth except Allah. This brings us to the greatest phrase in existence. But is just uttering La ilaha illallah with your tongue enough to save you? Think of the Shahada like a key to paradise. We all know a key doesn't work without the specific ridges and teeth that fit the lock, right? Well, scholars derived 7 essential conditions from the Quran and Sunnah that act as the teeth of this key. All of them have to be met together for this incredible phrase to be accepted and open the doors of mercy for you. The great scholar Sheikh Hafiz al-Hakami brilliantly gathered these 7 conditions in his famous poem, Sulam al-Wasul. He essentially created a mind-blowing memorization tool for students so these conditions are never forgotten. They are knowledge, certainty, acceptance, submission, truthfulness, sincerity, and finally, love. 7 conditions that literally map out the route to an unshakable, true faith. Let's break these down to make them super practical for our daily lives. The first 3 steps form our internal foundation. First is knowledge. Truly understanding what the Shahada means, what false gods it rejects, and what it affirms for Allah, rather than just repeating it like a parrot. Second is absolute certainty in the heart, a firm, solid faith without a single drop of doubt that Satan might try to plant. And third is acceptance, fully accepting everything this phrase demands from us, avoiding the arrogance that destroyed past nations who rejected the clear truth. Next up is the practical stage, submission. It's not enough to just accept it in your heart. Our physical limbs and our entire lives have to submit to what Allah legislated. This goes hand in hand with the 5th condition, truthfulness. Your heart has to perfectly match your tongue. We have the greatest example of this in Abu Bakr. When people call the Prophet a liar about the night journey, Abu Bakr instantly shut down all doubt with his famous, truthful statement. If he said it, then he has spoken the truth. That's the kind of truthfulness that tests our mettle and separates the believer from the hypocrite. Finally, we crown this entire structure with sincerity. Our actions must be purely for the sake of Allah, totally free from showing off or seeking some temporary worldly status. And wrapping all of this up is the 7th, and arguably the most beautiful condition, profound love for Allah, His Messenger, and what Allah loves. This genuine love isn't just a fleeting emotion. It's the core engine that allows us to literally taste the sweetness of faith, as the Prophet described. It makes obedience joyful and brings a comfort that makes all of life's hardships feel totally manageable. Before we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a deep question to evaluate our daily worship. Just pause for a second and ask yourself, are all my limbs actually submitting to Allah alone? Are my eyes looking at what pleases Him? Are my ears listening to what He loves? Is my tongue speaking what He legislated, or is it slipping into gossip and backbiting? This kind of daily self-reflection is absolutely crucial to recalibrate our compass towards our ultimate purpose and make our Tawhid a living, breathing reality. We highly encourage you to continue your learning journey through the official Zad Academy curriculum to dive even deeper into these authentic Islamic sciences. Thanks for joining us for this course summary, and Jazakumullahu khairan.